Hey there, folks. Welcome to yesterday's news for November 8th, 2018. So last Monday, I was getting ready to record a video about a mass shooting, one in the synagogue in Pittsburgh. And had a thumbnail already made and everything. It was great. Then my wife went into labor with our seventh child. So that's great. That's I'm very happy about that, and that's the reason why it has been a week and a half since I've recorded a video. Seventh child is a little easier to adapt to than the third, but it's still a little bit of extra work and lack of sleep, etc. So I haven't recorded a video. But ironically enough, I finally get to the place where I have the time and mental energy to record a video again. And what's the topic of the day? It's a mass shooting again. Now I've expressed my opinions about guns and gun control, Second Amendment stuff, and that's that argument's been done to death. There's there's lots of other ways for people to do damage. There's this incident was in California where they have strict gun laws. I will say, I need to say this. I will say this as often as I can, that if these incidents are happening, which at this point in history they are, the thing to do is to shoot back. So if you are of sound mind and good moral character, I will reiterate my plea that you get the training necessary, get yourself a concealed carry permit, get yourself a gun and carry it, and get to the range and practice so that you can make that shot if you need to, because the life you save might not be your own. And it does work. It does happen. In this same time frame as we've had two mass shootings, there were two other attempted mass shootings that were stopped by civilians with concealed carry permits. One in a McDonald's, I forget where, and the other one in a Kroger in Kentucky. So, yes, on a side note, please get a concealed carry permit. It saves lives. Assuming you're of sound mind and moral character, and you know what you're doing, it's not as hard to get as good as you need to be as a lot of people think. A couple trips to the range, and you can have that minimum proficiency that's necessary. So don't be afraid, don't be nervous, don't be intimidated about it. There are plenty of people out there who will help you out, and yeah. So. The real question I'd like to be asking, rather than what to do about these incidents, assuming that they're happening, is why are these things happening now? One of the things, again, that people who are not as big nerds about the history of firearms technology as I am, they might not understand that this technology has been around for 160 years. Most people don't realize how close an 1860 Henry, Civil War gun was and still is to an AR-15 in performance. AR-15 is better. It's more capable, than an 1860 Henry, but the advantage is 20-30%, not an order of magnitude. So, and AR-15s and modern pistols like what was used in this incident in California have been around for over 100 years, and the AR-15 itself has been around for 60 years, and and weapons of similar capability have been around for 160 years. So it's not the technology. It's not that the guns are out there. They're actually less available now than they were 100 years ago. the truth is, and it's something that a lot of people don't want to admit because it sounds conspiratorial and doomsday-ish, but our culture is coming apart at the seams. And there's a lot of statistics that show that. At the same time that we're seeing an uptick in this sort of mass violence, we're seeing an uptick in gang violence in inner cities. We're seeing an uptick in the suicide rate. We're seeing increases in drug overdoses, and we're seeing riots and all these things that something's up, and it's not the guns, and it's not people try to blame social media and things like that. I mean, social media helps helps it spread. It's probably not helping, but we have a spiritual crisis in this country. Now, if you can, if you prefer, you can call it a mental health crisis. You can call it, as Peterson would, a crisis of meaning. While we're in the midst of a crisis, the social and cultural foundations of our society are being upended. We're not debating politics anymore. We're debating completely different and incompatible views of the nature of reality. Come to think of it, those are just more symptoms of the real problem. The real problem at the end of the day is spiritual. And if you don't like to conceptualize it that way, we had a shared moral fabric, and that culture that moral fabric was instantiated in was a complex, evolved system. And like all complex, evolved systems, there are elements of it that are a little weird. They're maybe unnecessarily complicated. Maybe they're not as efficient as we'd like them to be. And so we just started pulling things out we didn't think we needed. And as it turns out, we needed some of those things. At the turn of the century, there was something like 100, turn of the previous century, 1900, there was something like 100 organs that were in the human body that were believed to be vestigial, as evolutionary leftovers, organs that are not useful anymore, but were to some previous ancestor. Today, that list is down to like 2. One of the things on that list 100 years ago was the pituitary gland. 100 years ago, they thought that was a vestigial leftover of evolution, and as it turns out, it is possibly the most important organ in the body for growth and development and hormonal regulation. So somewhere along the way, as we started ripping out vestigial organs of culture, we ripped out some pituitary glands. You can live without an appendix. That's not vestigial either. We did figure out what it's for. But you can live without it. Can't live without a pituitary gland. And, I'm trying to keep my appeal here more universal and not get spiritual. But however you want to conceptualize it, we lost sight of God. We lost sight of the fact, whether you believe it's fact or a useful construct, I don't care. But we lost sight of the idea that there is a supreme moral good and that we're accountable to that somehow. We propagated that throughout our culture, that, that good and evil are just constructs. Well, even if they're just constructs, that doesn't mean they're not important. It doesn't mean they're not adapted to truth. And that's what we're really facing right now. It's not any of the other things. There's a lot of contributing factors you can point to, why this is happening. But at the end of the day, it's, the media pushing division is bad. Yeah, social media creating echo chambers is bad. Yeah, political tensions are bad. Yeah. But the reason that it's catastrophic, the reason that it's life and death now, is because it's not being filtered through the idea that there's somebody watching. And until that becomes the default in our culture again, we're going to keep seeing stuff like this. People are going to join radical causes, and whether it's the Bernie supporter who shot up the Republican congressman, or the wacky guy who sent the quote-unquote pipe bombs, or it's radical Islam, or any of those other things, people are going to start trying to grab onto something. And if they don't have anything to grab onto, maybe they just decide they want to create as much death and chaos as they can on the way out. And no matter what laws we pass, they're going to have access to the technology to do that. And so I try to end with something good I can tell you. The answer to this is there's we can't go fix it out there. We all just have to live our lives according to the truth that there is moral value in the world, and we are responsible to it. And if we live that out, if we actually believe that, then that rubs off and it starts to have an effect. I think if we do that, all those other problems will take care of themselves. Unfortunately, that's the solution. You just got to fix you and hope that it's contagious, which it is. It is contagious. So with that, I'm approaching 15 minutes, and apologize for running long. This is a deep and sad and complex topic, and trying to summarize it in 15 minutes without a script is probably not the greatest idea. So, but with that, I hope you found this encouraging or useful, or found solace in it or something. I hope you didn't enjoy talking about the fabric of our civilization coming apart. So if you have positive feelings towards what I'm doing here, like, share, subscribe, and otherwise I will, well, probably not see you again. But if you do like it and you subscribe, I will see you again later.